We are currently in Tennessee. We're taking my younger brother, Gerald. We're taking the little Nova drag week car that we're going to build for him for drag week. Actually, we're taking down to Tyree Smith at Ty-Tech Performance, and he's going to go through the motor and do the wiring and stuff like that because neither one of us really have time to do it. My little brother's slammed too. But while we're here in Tennessee, it kind of brought back a life story that how things. I was thinking about how things when we're younger, it takes one little thing in life that kind of changes the course of our life. So if you guys remember, in 1979, my dad went to take my mom to. Me and my dad had been hanging out because I always hung out with my dad, and we were going to little V8 Volkswagen. We were going to take that. We were going to go get some sheet metal to do the floor in this Volkswagen, and my mom's car wouldn't start. Needed to go to work. I've said this story before, but I'll tell it one more time. And when he went to take my mom to work, I'm 9 years old, and when he rides off with her on the back of the motorcycle, stupid kid shit. So I wished you were dead, because I was mad. And the next time I seen my dad, he was in the hospital, got hit head on his motorcycle, paralyzed from the waist down. And even though I know now that was a stupid thing to think or say, the worst part about it was I let that change the whole course of my life. That's one of the reasons I would never leave my dad, no matter what he did, no matter what needed to be done. I felt like the rest of my life it was my responsibility to look out for him, because now he's no longer able to. My dad was a man's man. He was a badass motherfucker, let me tell you. I only consider myself about half tough. I tell everybody my older brother, he's double tough. Well, my dad was the baddest motherfucker I knew. He was, I'll tell some stories about my dad when we were kids, too. Matter of fact, I'll just tell that story real quick. So when we lived in California, my dad was did drywall. And he always wore cut-off shorts and a black t-shirt. That's what my dad wore every day. Well, we're in this little donut shop. He stops to get us donuts one day. And we're sitting there at that donut shop, and there's a guy that's in a fancy car, and we all had long hair. All our hair was all long, and because we're kind of California. I'm pretty sure we lived in California then. And this guy's looking down his nose at my dad. And back then they had these coffee cups that were about that thick, great big thick coffee cups. And this guy's kind of looking down his nose at my dad. And my dad takes that coffee cup, and we're sitting there. As soon as we finish our donuts, he takes that coffee cup and he rears over and he smacks this guy right across the face with it. I mean, shatters this guy's nose. And then my dad walks over and picks him up off the floor, grabs him by the throat, sticks him against the wall. I guess that throat grabbing thing's hereditary. Sticks him against the wall, and he said, "You never look down your nose at me or my boys ever again." And that's how my dad was. But my dad was one of them, man, if he gave you his word. The way I am today is how my dad was before he got too involved with the dope bullshit. But if he told you something, that's how it went. He never broke his word. He always did what he said he was going to do. So that little incident that day, and I'm gonna tell four or five stories of shit that I've done, all based behind that one moment in 1979 when I said, 9 years old, I wish my dad dead, because we weren't going to the south. We weren't going to get the parts for that Volkswagen, and he was taking my mom to work. So there was a guy that actually also was a cook, made methamphetamine, him and my dad, and another guy all partnered up. Well, there was a tornado. All the chemicals and all the glassware and everything was in a trailer in Tennessee. That's what brought this up. And a tornado came through here and blew the trailer away. Well, my dad said, in his opinion, even though we all knew about the tornado, it was on national news. It tore this place to pieces. And my dad swore and be damned, because back then he started slipping off into the way he seen things was the only way things could have been. And he swore that this guy, let's just call him H, because that's what we all called him. He swore that H had stole everything, had taken it, used the tornado as an excuse. So at that time I was 16 years old. And my dad gets a call from my uncle, who used to be his partner. Everybody in this is dead now, so I can tell the story, including my dad. Lewis Goad he was actually a cousin, but he was more like he was like our second dad. When we were having tough times, him and my dad were super tight, and they did everything together. And he was actually a bookie in Oklahoma City for years and years and years. People that see this video will know who Lewis Goad is. So, Lewis tells my dad, hey, H is in town. And my dad says, I'm going to get my money. Technically, there wasn't no money owed. It was something that happened and should have let it go, but my dad said, hey, come on, you need to go with me. We loaded up, grabbed the pistols, off we went. So I knock on the door at the motel, and H was always really good to my family, was good to all of us. I liked him a lot. And when I knocked on the door, he answered the door, and I pushed through the door, and I put him on the ground at gunpoint. So my dad walks in, and my dad walked on canes for the rest of his life, of course. And I've got him on the ground with a gun at the back of his head when my dad tells him what's going to happen. And basically, we took everything. Took his truck he was driving, made him sign over the title to his Mercedes. My dad sat there and wrote value of what that stuff was worth based on what he thought that H owed him for the chemicals and the glassware and all the shit that had blown away in that tornado, which he swears that's not what happened. My dad was convinced that he went and cooked it and spent the money. That wasn't true. But it didn't matter what I felt about it. That was my responsibility to do what I needed to do, or what my dad asked me to do. And you know, that moment has bothered me because it was wrong. Now don't get me wrong, guys. There's been people that owed me money that I've took their shit many times. I have turned around and walked right in their front door, took their cars, took their boats. When I was in that dope game, if you owed me money, you were going to pay me money. You were going to pay me, or I was going to take your shit and give you 10 cents on the dollar and then make you still give me my money. So, but that was one instance that I was wrong, my dad was wrong, and we wiped this guy out. We took every fucking thing from him. Of course, he bounced back, and you know, and when I was walking out the door, he said, James, really? I said, what did I do? H, it's my dad. And he said, I understand that. So even in that moment when I was in the wrong, and everybody, H knew I was in the wrong, and my dad was never going to be, you could never convince my dad he was in the wrong, but he was in the wrong. But you know, that man, when I was walking out that door, he said, at least you did what you needed to do for family. He said, and I'm never going to be mad at you for that. But I have lived with that, and that was the one time that I did something that, I did a lot of things that were bad. I did a lot of things that were bad that I shouldn't have done. But that was one moment where I put a gun on a man and took all his stuff. And I knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right from the beginning. But that day in 1979 is why no matter what my dad asked me to do, no matter what needed to be done, I was going to be the one that did it. Because if I hadn't said what I said in my head, my dad would still be able to walk. He wouldn't be paralyzed from the chest down, and he could handle his business on his own. So that's one story about how something that you say when you're 9 years old as a kid changes your whole life. And there's a whole series of these stories. And guys, they steadily get worse. And it's going to change the perception of me to a lot of people. But I didn't go to prison for singing too loud in church, guys. I told you that. I was not a good person back then. And that guilt that ate on me the whole time growing up, I never left my dad's side. I was 26 years old before I left my dad's side. And that's just because I wanted to get away from it, and I wanted to break clean. And I was for a long time. I was trying to get my shit together, was working. I'll tell you that story. I'll tell you how I got pulled back into this shit. But that was one instance. That was one of the things that shaped me and sent me to prison and started me down this path. Was a comment a 9-year-old kid makes about his dad, that every kid in the world has said, I hate you, all that shit. But every kid that's ever said that or wished their parents dead, next time they didn't see their dad, he wasn't paralyzed from the chest down and in a hospital for 2 years. So these stories are going to start getting tougher and tougher on me, guys. That's why I'm having a harder and harder time doing them, but I'm going to do them. It's overwhelming, the amount of people that are coming up, that I think more people are getting to know the real me based on these, other than based on a bullshit TV show that perceived me in a way that I wasn't. And the hardest part about that is everything that I've done in my life to change the person I used to be. And one of the reasons I quit that shit, guys, was because it was fixing to send me right back down a bad path. We'll get into more street outlaw bullshit. Oh, I'm not supposed to say street outlaws because I've been threatened with legal. Fuck it, bring it. So guys, we're gonna have other stories coming. Some of them good, some of them bad. The next one I tell you, it's gonna be funny as hell. Has to do with Stacy. And you guys will roll fucking laughing over this one. We're out. I just went back over my video I just done, and I caught myself ever since one time when I scratched my nose. Motherfucking idiots all saying, oh, that's because he's doing cocaine. So let me give you the story of that. I have a mustache, and every once in a while hair gets up there and tickles my nose. So you fucktards that are going to say that about cocaine, promise you I can pass a piss test better than you. So let me put that little thing in there, because I'm not going to redo the video. I don't want to redo the video. So there you go. I'm going to have Stacy cut this into the video, and then you fucktards that say that stupid shit, everybody can talk about how stupid you are, because I got my nose is itching. Later.